What are y'all thoughts about the Manosphere and its impact?
Kudos to the portion that's all about building and uplifting. I don't give kudos to the part where it's always bashing women.
It's funny when people go, don't listen to that person, it's generally because they rather have you listening to them.
What made the Manosphere so impactful over the last 5 years, men are saying people are hearing for the first time.
Are we going to be checking Paul Pierce's paperwork since he has recently been on a podcast to talk about how American women lack the values that foreign women uphold?
Paul Pierce jumped out the window on this one. If there's any truth in what he said, I think American women are more entitled.
The dating and sexual marketplace, it's global now. You can't undo it.
Can we just acknowledge that, okay, if we have a problem with him saying that, there's only one way to fix it. Tell us that you're not that, then. Show up in a way that says, hey, you know what? Paul's not right. Welcome to yet another episode of the BLC Pod. Yes, and I got most of my people with me who are getting better at doing that whole, y'all are doing y'all thug this, okay? But with that said, we don't have our girl Tia B. She's out there still outside having an amazing time, I'm sure. Hopefully she'll be back next week. Girl, we miss you. Don't have too much fun without us. We're still kind of jelly. But with that being said, gotta remind the people, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and all of that good stuff. And of course, you already know, we got that merch shop. New shirts, new designs, new models. You know what I'm saying? Coming soon to the website. You dig what I'm saying? But with that being said, and the people that I do have with me, starting with the incomparable S&M Jones.
Coming to the stage. Oh, wait, I'm already on the stage. No, I'm just kidding. So anyways, I am super excited to be here. And you know what's been bothering me? I'm going to have to say it. I was trying to stay out of it, but please, folks, get off Megan Thee Stallion. Get off her nutsack. She didn't even got nuts, but y'all own it like she do. She don't have 3 relationships in 7 years, and y'all all over there swinging, talking about she for the streets. She ain't for the streets. She don't have 3 relationships in 7 years. Goddamn. Give that woman a break. Anyways, otherwise, hey, y'all. I'm happy to see y'all.
Hey, sitting there. No, some people would say that maybe she needs to give her vagina a break, but that's not me saying that.
3 years, 3 relationships in 7 years, okay?
It doesn't speak to the side situation. But anyways, go ahead, Jay. What's
happened? What's good, people? It's glad to be back, man. Very glad to be back. Missed all of y'all, but it was a great show. I watched, cheered, commented. It's fire. This week, what's got my attention is the fact that women are beefing everywhere, man. It's like Cardi B's beefing, and it's like Megan Thee Stallion is beefing, and Nicki Minaj is beefing, and she beefing with, what's that girl with the funny face? Anyway, so she be anyway, my point here is, with all this fighting going on, I might not even have to go see the fight down in Vegas with your boy Canelo. So it's crazy in hip hop. Y'all need to calm down, man. That's why y'all need to watch BLC, get you some peace. So watch this episode. Calm down. Get with it. Let's go.
I ain't gonna hold you, Jay. I like my women with beef. See what I kind of did there? Anyway, what's happening? The resident beef
good. Good. Listen.
Pause for sure.
Listen, I got to follow up on Jay's Vegas update. I have a Vegas update of my own. Vegas is going to start having Uno at the casinos. You can play Uno for money. So if you need me to flip some money for you when I go to Vegas, I got you. Don't worry about it. Your money's safe with me. But I'm also having a better day than CEO of astronomer Andy Byron, who got busted on the kiss cam at the Coldplay concert with his mistress and head of HR. And who he promoted last week. I'm sure it's just a crazy coincidence. So you guys be careful out there.
I mean, you said she's the head of HR.
Pause.
I mean, my ears hear differently sometimes. But thank you for sharing.
I'm sure the promotion is a complete coincidence.
She brings a whole new definition to human resources. You know what I'm saying?
Literally, yeah.
Talk about a job with benefits.
I'm not getting in on that. I'm just I'm not gonna do it. No. It's tempting. It's tempting. I'm leaving that by myself. Go ahead. I need some bail for later on this episode, so I can't spend it all in the first intro.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what it is.
No, listen. I hear all that. You know what's crazy? So last week I talked about my rededication. I don't know if I talked about it on the show. I think I did, as far as going back to the gym. You know what I mean? Trying to get thick with it. You know what I mean? And I'm happy to report that I'm 2 days straight in. You know what I'm saying? 2 days straight, right? Yeah, man. Come on. Clap it up for your boy. Where's the support? Black people, we gotta support each other
I'm still
more.
trying to figure out what it means. But yeah, man, it's good. That's beautiful, bro.
No,
That's
what you
beautiful.
mean? Like, okay, so listen. I
Okay.
said I'm gonna drink more water. If I have to get up and use the bathroom, it's because I'm old and I'm drinking more water. So just to put it out there. Number 2, right? I've been eating more, getting my little shake together, right? And then number 3, I've been running a certain number of steps, and I've been like, getting into the weights and shit, right? So I'm just saying that, like, y'all, because remember, I think it was the beginning of the second half, and we were all making like New Year's resolutions again, if you will, right, for the second half. And so I'm just happy to report that I am still committed to that, half year or second half recommitment to my goals. And I'm excited. And the last thing I'm gonna say is, there are some times where delusion is appropriate, right? Because we talk about that a lot in relationships. I'm gonna tell you why. I've been to the gym like 2 days, right? My muscles hurt. I feel thicker. Like I'm walking around the crib like I've been working around for a while. Like I probably ain't gained no pound of muscle, no nothing. But just the fact that I went 2 days and feel a little sore, the delusion got me feeling thicker than I probably am right now. I even got the medium shirt on. This is supposed to hug my biceps, but they're not hugging yet. I still have work to do. But my point is, there are sometimes that delusion, it works for you, okay? So with that being said, for all y'all people out there, recommitting yourself, you know what I'm saying? Go every day and then fall in love with the delusion. All right, because that's what's going to make you motivated to go back again. But go ahead, S&M. Look at these muscles. But go ahead, man. Y'all ain't ready.
See, I want to come for you just a little bit, but I'm not, because you know
Girl,
what? You
come.
did better than me. I only went swimming one day. One day you hit 2 at least. So I'm not even going to come for. I'm going to continue to applaud that, because woo, 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 woo.
So we got to support each other. If
Yeah,
not here, then where? If not us, then
Accountability right
who?
here.
right? So I'm like, I gotta make sure I hit it this weekend. But you know who else needs support? Shaq needs support. You know why? Because Shaq is about to put his hands on R2D2, aka RG3, aka the biggest clown around. But let's go ahead and talk about what R2D2, I mean RG3. I like to call him R2. What the fuck is his name again? Oh snap! I can't be cursing the first 7 seconds. My fault, YouTube. But look, check this out.
We'll just have to beep it in post production. So
yeah, I think it was more than 7
girl.
seconds.
R2D2. Yeah, go
So
ahead.
anyways, with that being said, so he recently continued to do his clown shit, and he of course has something about, I don't know what it is about Angel Reese, but she obviously maybe dissed him in her previous life. I don't know what's going on, or whatever the reason why he feel like he always got a cap for the white women. But whatever the case may be, he recently shared a post that I'm not going to talk about directly, because I do not want to talk about the post itself. But what I do want to talk about is Shaq's reaction to the post and the slander that he put on Angel Reese's name. So basically, Shaquille O'Neal pulled up and was like, yo, keep Angel Reese's name out your MFing mouth before you get these hands. And I was like, go ahead, woo! But here's my question to you guys, right? Because we know that Shaq is supposed to be a mentor. He's had her on his show and whatnot. And so is this what protecting Black women look like? Or is Shaq doing too much here?
Okay, well, I'll start. I think that this could be what protecting Black women looks like. I mean, she's a Black woman. He is trying to protect her image, her psyche. He says she's been calling, say she would have clapped back on her own. He was like, nah, girl, keep it classy. I got this for you. And I think that's what protection does look like. I think we talk about in relationships, what does protection look like? It doesn't have to be romantic for you to protect the person, protect the character, you know what I'm saying, to speak up on their behalf. Now, was it a lot? Yeah, it was a lot, Shaq. It was a lot, bruh. You sound like me when I let go a little bit, bro. Like you holding a lot back, man. We should probably see not the same therapist, but maybe, I don't know. It was a little lot. It was a little aggressive, but I think he was trying to make a point. Now, I honestly, in the age of Hollywood, post slap, I don't know if you should be threatening to punch people in the face. I don't know. Like, I just don't know how that works out. Everybody's so litigious right now. But I like to see it. You know what I mean? And I think that it's a shame that a Black man had to protect a sister from another Black man. It's a shame that that we even have to draw these lines, that somehow this story of athletes has become a racial conversation when it should just be about talent. right? And now it's getting deeper and deeper. And I think what Shaq is saying in a greater sense is get back to the conversation about the players and the game. Like I think he went on his podcast and he went on to say, hey man, all people say about you, RG3, is your podcast. Nobody's talking about your game. And maybe that's why you're not talking about the game, because you're not in it and you just don't have it in your head. And maybe it's not in your heart. I think that's what Shaq was saying, not me, man. I don't know you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Shaq was being better performative, man. Come on, man. It's words. You know what I'm saying? I mean, everybody, it's one of those things when people say this stuff in Hollywood, and you're like, oh man, I'm gonna pull up on you, I'm gonna do this. I'm like, yeah, but you're not gonna do that stuff in real life, because in real life, everybody don't play like that. You know, some people don't make threats. They make T-shirts out of people. So I mean, it's a lot of it's being performative. I get the point Shaq is making, but yeah, I think it's being extra. You know, got the cape, doing the crash test dummy kind of thing. So you got to be careful doing that. You can who you can and can't play with. So that's my take.
Well, I mean, first of all, if you're talking about knowing who you can and cannot play with, I think most people probably assume that RG3 or Robert Griffin III is someone that can be played with.
Fair point. So, fair enough.
Let's be
touche.
So, right, I think for
notable exceptions.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, if I remember correctly, Ryan Clark had a chance to play with RG3, right? The last time he said something about her, right? Now, Delvin, what I will say is I first of all agree with you. It is performative, but I think there's a reason to that, right? Because the last time we heard about Shaq and Angel Reese, and this is no disrespect to Shaq because I don't want that smoke, because I actually do think Shaq might pull up, slap a nigga, but I'm trying to think, do I need the money that badly or not? Anyways, the point I'm trying to make is, right, the last time we heard about Shaq was he was trying to pull up on Shorty. He wasn't just being a big brother. He was trying to get in, you know what I mean? Like there was some creepy comments that was made that people interpreted as yuck, because Shaq is significantly older than she is, but she's certainly tall enough. But with that being said, so I do agree that this is maybe Shaq's way in a performative way. It's a layup, right? Everybody ain't fucking with RG3. He's a fucking loser, 1000%, right? It's one thing to have a critique. And I was kind of like low key on his side the last time when the whole Ryan Clark thing happened, because I was like, you know what, Ryan, you didn't have to bring his wife into it, even though he didn't say anything negative about her. Although he was using her as a means to get to him, I didn't think he needed to do that, right? So that's why I was kind of like, but at the end of the day, like he's a sucker, he's a clown. Everybody know what RG3 is and how he gets down, right? So cool. But back to Shaq, though, I think it was performative, and I think it's a great way to wipe the palate of those of us who remember that you might have been pulling up on her. If I'm being honest, I ain't here to judge, man. She's of age and she's of height. So, you know what I mean? I'm not here for that. But I also really want to say, I mean, she's tall enough here she can rebound. You know what I'm saying? They'd probably be practicing in the backcourt, you know, in the backyard, like, girl, let me show you some of these moves. You really got me to the level that but I also want to say though too, right? Is this conversation about protecting Black women, right? I mean, the bar is low because I think Selfie always also said it's words, right? Like I feel like the whole narrative about the need for somehow to just exemplify how Black women need to, I feel it's conflated. It feels super conflated. This is a basketball. RG3 is a clown, barely got an audience. He said some shit. Shaq decided to say something about it. We've made it more than what it probably really was in actuality, just even talking about it. You dig what I'm saying? So this idea that, ooh, we're protecting Black women, if that's what y'all need, cool. You know, that's a layup too for many of us, like it was for Shaq. All I got to say is a couple of things on the mic and all of a sudden I'm protecting Black women, right? So, I mean, I get it. Kudos to Shaq, you know what I mean? And all the strong Black men out there stepping up for it. But in y'all stepping up for Black women, please, please, please do not oversimplify the situation, because some of y'all go too goddamn far with y'all cape and y'all might find yourselves tripping on it. And I would be right there laughing at your dumb ass because we see right through y'all. You know, the guys who use these opportunities to pander to Black women, to act like they really care about Black women for real, but in truth, they also can be predators who need protection from. But anyway, it's a whole different conversation. This is meant to be a quick take, and we're not going to get into that. But go ahead.
Yeah, so
lay off for you too, boo.
So what I'm going to say is sometimes words matter. And so while it was performative a little bit, words matter, because just like you need to hear your significant other say, I love you, sometimes we need to hear someone's going to protect us. And rather, in her case, she's constantly getting death threats. She's getting all type of pushback. And to have this Black man come at her for caping for somebody else outside his race for whatever strange reason, and then to slander her, It's like, okay, come on, stop it. So I think that while he was a little bit over the top, I was like, yo, use the statement, catch me outside. You know what I'm saying? Or better yet, what about celebrity boxing? You know, that still exists. And so go ahead and get him in the ring because to be honest, he need to be punched in the face because he's been talking sideways and squirrely for quite some time, especially about Angel Reese. So Shaq, catch him outside. And RG2T2 fucking whatever the hell your name is. Now I'm just kidding. I know what your name is. I just choose to mess it up just like you choose to continue to mess with somebody who ain't got nothing to do with you. But I guess it's catering to your audience. You pandering to your audience because you know you don't got no other audience. So I'm with Shaq on this because at the end of the day, Shaq is right. No one remember this dude from his football career when he was back with the Redskins and now the Commander. Matter of fact, he was the least protected quarterback while he was playing because he was a whiny little bitch and he continued to be a whiny little bitch. So go ahead and catch him outside, Shaq. You got my support. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
And not you with the support. All right, go ahead, Delvin. I'm gonna let that stand, but go ahead, Delvin, because I don't want to be seen caping for him. I definitely don't want to do that. Not on this good episode.
Man, it's hard to follow up that RG3 hate. That's been pent up for a little while. You need to let that out, man. I understand that. I feel that. Yeah, it was a brief and inglorious career that he had. So
glorious. What part was glorious?
No, I said inglorious.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so because y'all continue to talk about this, I'm gonna just say this to closing, okay? Because I do get Shaq's anger, his performative nature, and that RG3, what he said was fucked up. But come on, man, he was a Heisman Trophy winner. Y'all really believe that he's going to be known for this over the fact that he did actually have an accomplishment in the field of sport that he played in? All right, man, that's all I want to say. Like, I get that we can be angry and we can be mad, but we can't lie, too, at the same time. Sometimes I got me out here looking like I'm caving because I got to correct the record. But go ahead, though, man. What Amber Rose talking about, man?
Well, speaking of caping, the Amber Rose is saying that the aunties are out here caping for the youngsters, and they are teaching them a thing or two. She says she's got them gone in 60 seconds, and the YNs are checking for the aunties. She says the young ladies, they can't compete with the aunties. The aunties are coming through with the warm towel. With the French toast, you lay there and kind of collect yourself. They may even make you some steak and eggs, and just the years of experience and talent is really hard for the young ladies to compete with. So she says the aunties are coming through and showing the YNs a thing or two, and they're snatching them up. So it's competition out there from the aunties. What say you, Jay?
Yeah, for sure she got a point. I don't even...
Yeah, she got a point. It's a layup, her point. I mean, okay, listen. You got a choice between a young chick who's out here trying to get you to pay for all of her stuff, got nothing but a struggle in the story and bills. And then you got this older lady who's got a career, she's established, she knows what she wants, she's like above all the BS or whatever. She ain't trying to impress all of her friends who don't know what they should be impressed by. So it's an easy choice. I don't even know if it really comes down to the punani. I mean, the punani probably, I don't know. I once, ventured, actually no, more than once. Okay, anyway, the times that I have been with somebody who was way older, other than the biological issues that you have to address, which I'm not going to do because I still need a certain number of women to still want to listen to me. I'm not going to call y'all out like that. I don't want to be inappropriate or insensitive with my address. So let me say, yeah, the coochie be a little different, but it's still good, right? It's still good. Do older women have the upper hand? They should know more and they should be a little more settled. But I'm saying, I don't think it's about the sex. Think about the mindset. Or this is good marketing. But when you look at it, I think she's got a point. But I think there's a story we're not talking about. And I'm just going to bust it out right here. I'm going to say this, I'm going to send my piece and hush. I think what really happened was Amber Rose was explaining to Ray J why she curbed him and he never got the hit and why he didn't friend zone forever. And she was just telling him that it's the whole older woman, young guy thing, and he's just not in that whole mix. That's what I was thinking. Y'all go ahead. What do you think, SNL?
No. I'm sorry, SNL. I'm blocked here because thank you, Jay, for helping me to confirm something that I knew in my heart, but I'm so mad at myself for not speaking up. And that is, I should have went first. Thank you. Like I was gonna go, and then he said, y'all just want to bounce past. Hey,
He
Jay,
did.
what do you want
He
to think?
did
No,
bounce
sorry, y'all stop that shit. I get it, it's cool and all that, but no, let the shit free flow. And that's why I didn't say anything. You know why? Because this type of conversation, if a man's gonna speak on it first, he should be someone who's into the thing to a certain extent. Jay spoke like somebody who's not into older women. And that's why I say this. It would have been great for him to go second and maybe give his point of view. But either he's not into older women, haven't had enough experiences with older women, and clearly did not understand the assignment of this conversation. That's why I said I should have went first. So to all our viewers out there, my bad. You know what I'm saying? My bad. So let me tell you what should have been said first.
Yeah.
First of all, Jay was talking about, oh, she has her own bills and all this. I mean, that's not what the fuck Amber Rose was talking about. At least what the fuck we want to be talking about that Amber Rose was talking about. We were talking about the vagina, the vajayjay, the vagina, sir. So all that other shit, please move to the side. So yes, you were correct about that. But those are like, you get to the third or fourth thing. Okay, let's move to the side. That's number one. Number two, who is she talking about? Your 40-something ass or old ass and my 40-something-year-old ass may not be as inclined at this point in our lives to date that much older, right? Because at that point, it's Social Security. Now, I will say, when you talk about the Sanaa Lathams, some of those women who are in their 50s and still look fucking amazing, even Tracy Ellis Ross, right? Those women, yeah, hey, I date older. But as a man who's always loved older women, even when I was a younger man, which the Jalen Greens, a lot of these brothers right now that you see who are dating women older, like the Drea Mitchells, or what's the girl who's really cute, chocolate sister? I can't remember her name, but Bernice Burgos. So my point is that yes, these young dudes are dating these older women for exactly the fucking reason that Amber Rose was talking about. What goes really untalked about in these conversations is the lack of physical, sexual experience and game that young women have. That's really what's not really being talked about here, right? These younger brothers, because they've had enough experiences, because they have enough women and access to these women, they want women who have experiences that's going to teach them something, that's going to show them something. Some of these younger women, even in my younger years, when I think back, women weren't schooled on how to do the towel thing, right? They weren't schooled on the small things that make the experience that much more greater for a man who's in a certain position, right? So yes, a woman who was going to grab the towel real quick, who's going to cook you a little something, who's going to suck you dry. You dig what I'm saying? Have no shame about it, right? Who's incentivized to show up as her best self, who understands that she's in her sexual prime, because I do think that's a real thing. As women progress and get older, there's a peak that hits, while some men, their own ages, tend to trend down. So it's a win-win situation for both in a lot of fucking cases, okay? So I'll say this, because let this be my swan song. Or not even swan song, because I'm going to still be around. Let this be my ode to all the amazing older women out there. I love y'all. Y'all have been a source of tremendous joy in my life. You dig what I'm saying? Y'all made me elevate my game to a certain extent to where now I'm dealing with women my own age, and I'm out here killing it because I'm in school by some of the best. What the fuck are you talking about, Jay? There's the virtues in that vagina, my brother. It's marinated. It's stewed. Whatever word is appropriate about things that get better over time. Okay? As long as it's not thoroughly used up and still has some contraction still there. But the point that I'm saying is, salute to her for saying what needed to be said. But the real takeaway is, young ladies out there, step your fucking game up. Okay? Because y'all are down bad. Okay? You know what I'm saying? Y'all letting these old women who could probably not even procreate for real, take y'all spots. Step your game up or step the fuck off. Okay? Shout out to Amber Rose for putting it out there, man. Shout out to all the older women out there. You heard me? And I'm 48, by the way. I'm still down to fuck with some of y'all. Holler at your boy. But go ahead, Esther.
I was going to say, so I don't know how to follow that exactly. So I'm just going to take a more of a clinical approach really quickly and just say and co-sign on some of the things that you just said, which is that women actually peak in their 40s because they have they reach their level of confidence. They're more secure about their body. They're also more likely to know what the hell they're doing in the bedroom. And that's why she says she can make them nut in 60 seconds or less, because it don't take much. And that's why these young bucks calling us MILFs now, because they already know what's up. And they're looking for that experience. And so, if you a cougar and you looking for you a young buck, go ahead and cop that Cougar Kitty shirt that we got coming out so you can basically market and be like, yo, I got that snatchback. And then, we give that shout out to Amber Rose, like, yeah, snatchback cooch.
And look, I can confirm on the ground that during Essence, the missus and her friends, they were called the TTs. The aunties, they were checking for them, so that is a thing. And Nick is right. It's those little things. It's the French toast, right? It's the warm towel. It's you lay there, I'm going to put a steak on for you. That's priceless. And I want to know, S&M, since you are in here, you have to speak for your counterparts. Are you and your counterparts not schooling the YL, the young lady, said, listen, baby, this is what you do if you want to get him, and he's never going to leave you. Are you guys sharing this knowledge, or are you hoarding it for yourselves and using it for evil?
So what I
Some
would
of them
say
don't
is
even have it, but go
this.
ahead.
I'm gonna say this. They're being schooled by the sexy reds of the world that talk about her booty hole brown and her coochie pink. And I think that's all the schooling they think they need. They have a tendency not to listen to the older generation because they've already identified us as being supposedly bitter and in competition. But the thing is you can't compete with originals. Yay. No, I'm just kidding. Let me stop. Let me not go there. But for real though.
And that's the reason they don't listen to y'all.
The thing
Thank
is,
you.
you can't tell a woman she doesn't need a man and tell her how to keep a man at the same time. That's the thing.
No, that was our grandmamas who did that.
Okay.
But no,
I don't think that's true. But okay, I'm gonna let you pass on that. Go ahead, Nick.
No, I think that there is a conversation to be had in regards to whether or not we've passed things down, right? I mean, go ahead.
I think we are passing things down. I think we were passing down bad advice and bad information. I can call out at least one person that I think is giving out bad advice and bad information. She's known for it. Her name is Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. Bad advice, bad information. For instance, recently she goes on and she says something like, men raised by single mothers process emotions like women. And she said, and then they're in relationships with other women. Now you got two women in a relationship and there's two feminized energies. Now, I'm making a voice because I personally have my feelings about it. But you guys tell me, is she right, or is this just reckless generalizing? Is this just her saying something for some clickbait and some attention because she heard a story one time? I mean, does the lack of male presence mean that a man can't learn to be a man at all and he just grows up as a woman? Or is this just a dig at single moms and trying to get them like to bite back at her? Or is she calling out, or is she really calling out a need for a two-parent household? She said it in a larger context. Let me give the context. She said it in the sense of her looking at people she would date and their background. She was saying that what some people may say is a more emotionally in tune man who's been raised by his mom or a female is now a more feminine man because he is voicing those emotions and he is giving voice to that. What do you guys, is she picking a fight where there is none, or does she have a point?
Let's not all jump in there at the same time.
Well, I was going to defer to one of the men first, simply because she's talking about men, and I was going to come in. But I don't mind going first. I have no problem with that.
I'll do the first thing, girl. Let me not defer that thing, girl. Speak your mind.
Go ahead.
She's a woman. Do you agree with her? As a woman who's dated men?
So I would say this, that I can see where she's coming from in the extent of having too much feminine energy in a relationship, because at the end of the day, if you wanted a woman as a woman, then I would have got with a woman. I would have been a lesbian, you know what I'm saying? If I really wanted that type of energy coming into my space with me. But at the same time, I actually took offense to what she was saying as well, because to me, it felt like she was basically taking a dig at single mothers in her own little way. Even though she called herself calling out men, she was actually taking a dig on the parenting style of single mothers. And so I kind of was like, so is she trying to say emotional expression is a form of weakness now? And if that's the case, then why do dudes throw full temper tantrums when a woman says no? Is that part of that then emotionally weak because they was raised by a single parent, a single mother to be precise? Whereas we already know that children who are raised in two-parent homes can have that same emotional state as well. They can be just as emotional. I think that the narrative that men raised by women is weak, when we talk about them being too emotional, too feminine, and so forth, especially as we continue to recognize that this gender fluidity, as I like to call it, I think that we actually undermine men and their ability to process emotions when we say, oh, you're too emotional, because at the end of the day, we can't say we want men to express themselves and they get mad when they do, right? It just seems counterintuitive to me to have this type of argument.
Yeah, I think the point that she was, at least the way I received what she was getting at, was I think there is a certain amount of emotional regulation and stoicism that men just kind of inherently impart on other men. And you can't just, just pop off and do exactly what you feel like. Like now we call it crashing out. And a lot of these crash out things we see in the news, I'll listen, I'll watch them or I'll follow the stories. I'm like, you know what if this guy had his dad in his life? And I look at it, I'm like, okay, well, dad wasn't there. I think we minimize the role that fathers or even just males in general play around other males, because the thing that happens when you have males around you, and your father in particular, is if you want to have a lack of emotional regulation, there's always a threat of physical violence that kind of keeps other men in check. So I think that's important, and not to knock on a job that single moms do a wonderful job. In most cases, that can possibly be done, but there is a certain amount of regulation that happens when other men are present, and that keeps younger guys in check. And we can't talk around it. I think that's important. Again, not to minimize the job that moms are doing, but I think that is an important key. And hopefully that was the point that she was getting at. But those things do happen in both cases, single parent home versus two parent home. It's just a matter of degree. So that's my take.
So, we're going to talk a little bit more about this, I think, in the Manosphere conversation. So stay around for that conversation. But it's interesting because you get this type of conversation from women or people in general who have these doctors in front of their names, right? And so when they describe these things, people may be inclined to believe them, hook, line, and sinker, right? Like they're just making the most sense. And what's dangerous about this type of conversation is that there's a lot of truth in what she's saying, right? So statistically, you can bear out that there's certain outcomes of kids, certain outcomes of like what happens in their lives based off of the household structure, right? That doesn't totally account for the nuance when you talk about having two parents, but and what complicates it to even be able to say that as eloquently as Delvin did is that there's human beings who feel attacked to say that, right? Like, hey, yes, maybe because you were in this circumstance, it may affect your male child this way, which is why it's probably then even more important for women who are in those situations to find males or men around them or have strong, like a village, as they say, right, to help support you, put them in sports. You try to do the best that you can so that they do have some level of male energy in their lives, because I think most of us would agree that if you can have two people in the home and two energies that are healthy enough to raise a child, that's the best outcome for the most part, right? So I think that's why this conversation is tough, because what she does, though, is that she takes these maybe facts, for example, and then draws this conclusion that's fucking ridiculous on the face of it, right? The idea that a man is going to be emotionally a feminine person in a relationship, right? Because he was raised by a single mother, to me, just draws such a straight line to something that it's impossible to do that. Right? Because there are guys who are raised in homes where the mother, in fact, is stoic, just maybe because she's still dealing with what happened in her relationship with the nigga's father, or because maybe emotionally there's a different things that kids witness growing up in their family's home, regardless of the gender, that does impact them and how they grow up and how they deal with people in relationships. But to Delvin's point, we can't deny, though, that there are some ways that we can maybe point to and try to draw some general conclusions that maybe the reason why this person's responding this way could be that. Right. So I think that's in line. But when you draw that straight line to try to define two people in a relationship and correlate it strictly to the fact that they was raised in a single parent home, I think that's the level of bullshit that we got to push back on a little bit. Because in these discussions is a very fine line in terms of exploratory conversations, us giving our opinions. But like, for example, I don't have a doctor in front of my name. But when somebody like Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, who may be adept at whatever area or field that she's in, but continues to expose herself as somebody who's maybe not adept, or maybe she is in terms of making the money, right? Because maybe it's not really about helping people. It's about sound bites or saying things that will solely get people riled up and then not be able to provide something more than just, look at me because I'm not doing it, you know what I mean? Versus like real solutions. So I think that's the heart of it, but there's a lot of truth in that. We just got to be honest about that. And it happens, you know what I mean? But the question becomes, what do we do to change it? What do we do to impact it or make it better? We can't run from it. I think running from it does us all a disservice. So yeah, I do agree there's some substance there, but at this point, I think she's exposing herself to lack a lot of real substance when you dig a little deeper behind the sound bites that we might hear from her clips.
So, I'm sorry. I just wanted to jump in really quickly and say this. So that was part of the thing that I was leading to, is that I feel that I'm actually disappointed in her because she took something and she made it, because she seemed to come off as pro-female, very feminine in nature and so forth. She seems to be somewhat of a feminist. Not, and I know some days people are like, oh, feminist, that's a bad thing, but it's actually not. And for her to express, like, to make this statement, to me, it seemed like she basically made it seem like femininity itself was the emotion is tied to femininity itself, therefore is negative because it shows up in a male. And so I think that some of the conversation, definitely agreeing with you two, that it should be about the male presence within the home or the male presence within the environment. And let's shed light on the lack of that presence and how that may have also influenced this particular dynamic. Because as you already pointed out, and I also pointed out that even within two-parent homes, we also find this. I think the one question that I have is that why is having two emotionally expressive people in a relationship considered a liability versus being viewed as a strength? That's also something that confused me, especially since she drew that direct line to single motherhood. But Jay, go ahead. I just wanted to add that in.
Okay. Well, since you brought up negatives, and it made me think of math, because I teach sometimes. And I think that what we're looking at here, and we'll talk about more in the Manosphere conversation, but what we're looking at here is the fact that you can have an equation, and it's not always going to give you a positive or a negative outcome. It depends on the input. So you can have this equation of a single parent, and it doesn't necessarily give you a feminized male. It depends on the input of the mother you have and the conditions that the child is raised in, and how much attention is given and how much time is given, and then what other factors and forces there are around. So I agree with everybody who said this was an overgeneralization that should not have been made by any person of reasonable intelligence. You can draw your own conclusions there. That being said, what does she even mean when she says processing emotions like a woman, as though it's a bad thing, as though it's shade? Do you mean like to feel deeply? You mean like to examine all of your emotions to see if they're valid? You mean to go through everything that you feel to figure out which one of those things you really feel? You mean to cry instead of to collapse? Do you mean, if we're talking being feminized in terms of that, then maybe men should do more of that. Maybe not all of that, but let's be honest, let's cut the men some breaks, y'all. Women get their whole lives to figure out what their feelings mean and how to deal with them. But men are supposed to have it figured out by the time we say, I'm a man. We're not allowed to be able to feel all the things we're feeling in one moment. We got to pick one thing and be that one thing in this moment, because everybody needs us to be something. So the landscape is different. The hands are not the same. I don't even know we play in the same game sometimes, because emotionally stunted masculinity is killing us. How is it the same people who are complaining about toxic masculinity are also now complaining that men are too feminine? It's weird. This is literally and spiritually, we are going left and right at the same time. Let's be honest. Yes, a lack of consistent male presence does shape how men interact with not only other men, but women, right? And men are learning. They're learning about women from their mother. They're learning about emotions from their mom, and how they're going to process themselves at the same time. There are a lot of moving parts happening right then. A lot of them. And so, yeah, I can expect a young man might be disoriented, but to automatically assume that this young man will somehow be emotionally lost is careless. And it's belittling and demeaning to all the people who have done this journey successfully. And they didn't make any fuss about it. They didn't ask for any plaques. They didn't go on your podcast. They didn't call you Dr. Bryant because they're not listening to you. They're too busy on their hustle. So let's flip the script. I do think it's a dig at single mothers. I don't think it's a plea for male accountability at all. Because if we really want balance, then we talk about the men who checked out. We talk about the absence of the fathers and why. And then we'd say, if these women aren't properly able to raise the man, why are they holding on to the boys? That'd be the conversation we'd be having if we were really trying to have a community-driven conversation. And when she's ready to have that conversation, maybe then I'll tune into what she's got to say.
Boom, shakalaka.
Hold on, I got to push back. I got to push back on something. I got to push back on something because Jay, so this, y'all, so, I did the whole, thing on the previous part of the conversation, so feel free to tap in there. So let me turn the hat around a little bit. First of all, Jay, I'm going to call cap on a couple of things. Number one, this idea that women react emotionally in a healthy, productive way. Let's start there. Because you were describing that, how women deal, you mean like by communicating? You mean by regulating? No, what y'all missed, it didn't hit me until you said what you said. What y'all missed was Dr. Cheyenne Bryant was telling on herself and women as a whole. You know what I mean? Because what she was saying is, yes, to emote like a woman is a problem, or at least when both people are doing it. Now, if she makes the sliver of, hey, we need a balance, okay, I could buy that a little bit, but too much estrogen is a problem. We know this is true because we hear about our wives' relationships with other women. We know this is true just off of GP. So how are we going to pretend that she's not telling on y'all, right? Because what she's saying is that if men left to the devices of only women, that the only thing that's going to be that they're going to soak up for them is some emotional, uncontrollable shit that's not going to show up well with another woman in a relationship, right? She wouldn't say that about a father, right? She wouldn't say that, oh, the daughter is going to pick up too many manly traits and she might become a butch nigga. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? So Dr. Cheyenne Bryant just inadvertently told, right? And she did. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm pushing back, Jay, because, and let's also be honest, as men who, I think what the problem is, and I think you kind of drew a falsehood here. You can be a man and masculine and still communicate your feelings effectively without being deemed emotional. There's ways that you can communicate the things that you're dealing with without losing your temper necessarily, without, yelling at a high-pitched voice or throwing tantrums, right? That type of lack of emotional regulation are the things that have been hallmarked by women. Right? Because for men, you made the case that men can't even communicate. So we're not supposed to even do that in the healthiest form. At least that's how we've been taught, right? So the ways that we as men are expected to show up is not to emote at all. And I'm saying bullshit, right? Because there's a way for you to still have emotions and to communicate your emotions effectively to another human being with the desire of solving a problem. In fact, when people talk about what men are supposed to be and how men are supposed to show up, aren't those the attributes that we want from men, right? So I got to push back on this idea that being emotional, it means that you have to emote erratically, like unfortunately women are known to do, or how they excuse that they do it because of their period and shit. Like, what the fuck you mean? There's a whole, listen, man.
I'm calling bullshit.
There are, you're going to have a chance to rebut, but there are cultural things that we've already talked about in the relationship space. This is not Nick making it up, right? This is stuff that we talk about in terms of how men bring logic to the situation, and women sometimes are the more emotional ones. They have all these different reasons, like their bodies, like their hormones, whether it's pregnancy, postpartum, or what menopause, these different things there, what do you call it? The word that escapes me, right? Things in their bodies that change. So this is not Nick making it up, that is fused through science. So what I'm saying is, if the idea that a young boy is only being exposed to that type of energy and that could be problematic, right, then she's not that far off. The problem becomes, to Jay's point, and what we all said is that which woman are you talking about? And if we were to sit there and try to isolate it for what percentage of women do you think are healthy enough to raise a young boy with the mindset to make sure he has a man's presence around them, then that's a different conversation. Maybe that's the conversation too. And Jay, last thing I'm gonna say, since we want to get into this full cock gender war with it, right? Yes, the nigga is missing, but it's her body, her choice. The fuck are we talking about, fam? When people are adults and they have to make decisions, I'm not saying a woman should do anything except the responsibility of the choices that she also made. Yes, the nigga sucks, but that doesn't mean a woman still can't have masculine and male presence in that child's life. It might be an extra thing that she has to be intentional about. Are women going to churches? Are they going to events in their communities? Are they actively participating out there with others where their child can get that kind of exposure? Right? There's things that people can do, and some women aren't doing those things. So we got to be honest about that too. So go ahead, Esther, if you want to shoot back. You feel me? Let's go.
So first I'll allow Jay to do it, since Jay, you was pushing back on Jay commentary first.
So his pushback on my comment wasn't whatever. His pushback was that I didn't fully call women out and say that her statement saying that two people in a relationship acting like a woman is a problem, it would suggest that women are problematic by themselves. Now, my answer to that is, of course, having only one kind of energy is problematic. You see, usually in lesbian couples, or usually in homosexual couples, let me say that, you will see one person representing as more feminine and the other representing with more masculine energy, even though they may be homosexual, right? It's just there's that interplay, that balance. Two people can't both move necessarily the exact same way, because then they might not complement each other. If you take two crabs, right, they both step sideways, nobody's ever going to go forward until somebody shifts because of the way that they move. So my pushback to Nick is, I'm trying to give people some bail and some grace today. I already messed up with the older ladies, man. And I feel like there's some women who are strong. And I feel like, honestly, the men who were raised by single moms who did not have a choice in it, they just end up being single moms. Like I was raised by a single mom. I feel like they catching a stray right now from Dr. Bryant, and I don't appreciate it. So I just want to talk to them real quick, and then y'all can go on to y'all conversation. I want to tell them, y'all not broken, okay? You're not less than, all right? You just learn from survival. You learn how to blend. You learn a different side of women, right? You just learned it from different, you came to school a different way, right? You can't use it in the other class. And that's okay. All right. You learned about your feelings and you want to express your feelings. That's okay too, man. You just gotta find somebody who cares about hearing about your feelings. And you gotta know when you can't be in your feelings, because that's part of being a man. And if you haven't learned that, then your mama did you a disservice. And then holler back, because we're gonna have to get back and talk about like what it is to be raised in a man on a Manosphere commercial. Conversation. All right, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
So I just want to say this really quickly then to why I said bullshit. So first of all, we act like men, just because y'all only express anger and violence, that's not an emotion. Because just because you guys, no, this, I'm just saying that you guys say that you're stoic and you're this and you're that. But if you're so stoic and so this, then why the hell we got so many wars started? Or matter of fact, why we had folks back in the day, soon as somebody step on your tennis shoes, next thing you know, you're trying to kill the person because they stepped on your tennis shoes. Or if a woman reject a man, all of a sudden he trying to fight her, trying to slap her, trying to do harm to her. So
they got women fighting on World Star.
And so what I'm saying is that men cannot claim that they're not emotional. I'm tired of that fucking narrative that men aren't emotional, period. Men have been emotional their entire life. The problem is we have this whole called propaganda that was set out in the 1950s where they started pushing this whole masculinity thing, which was, oh, men are supposed to be stoics, men are supposed to be this, men are supposed to be that. When in reality, the only time you guys were that way was because it was, how can I put it nicely? It was because you're trying. Here it is. It's because you didn't know how to process, and not you guys, but men didn't know how to process their emotions in the manner that they should have been processing their emotions. At the end of the day, men are emotional. When you react with violence, when you react with anger, when you react certain ways, that is still emotion. Now, women may be more expressive when they do certain things, like how I'm expressing my emotion. Like, matter of fact, even when, what's the guy who became the judge and he was crying and everything, and it was like, women are more emotional. But this man sitting there from a 2-parent home and a trust fund, and he was up there crying. But no one said, oh, he was being emotional. They're like, oh, he was passionate, because you guys frame it a certain way to make sure it benefits you. So I'm going to say this. Everybody has emotions. The way, my problem with this, and why I understand when I started off saying, yeah, I don't want to be two women relationship, right? Because that was me saying that there are certain characteristics that I do expect men to show up with to have, right? Because that's how we've been socialized, is that men are supposed to be stoic. Men are supposed to be logical. Men are supposed to be this. But women have the same capability to be all those things as well, and are all those things. So I'm just saying that she was dead ass wrong for placing on single women or single mothers. And I also want to push back on the fact that you talking about, oh, they should have chose. Well, shit, how you know she didn't choose the person that was the representative that showed up? Y'all act like men ain't out here fronting that ain't their representative that's showing up. And they're like, they say all the good things and and then they get the draw, spray up in the club. And now all of a sudden, oh, you should have chose. It's your body, your choice. But then we'll still have those same men come back and say, Black women are murdering our babies.
What the fuck, S&M? I get it. You didn't have much room to go with, so you had to grab at straws towards an argument that nobody was making, right? Nobody said that men don't have emotions, right? In fact, I think I was pointing out those things as exactly that, emotions. And what we're talking about is when men are not able to regulate themselves. You mentioned guys shoes being stepped on. I'd be willing to bet, because I think if you looked at the statistics, the number of brothers in that period of time who were doing those things probably did grow up in a single parent home. Hate to break it to you. You know what I'm saying? A la Boys in the Hood. But the results of that, it was that they were still raised in single parent homes. So I wasn't disagreeing. I'm saying that, yes, men are. I'm sorry, say it again.
Oh, I said a fatherless home. I'm going to start reframing it. Every time we talk about single mothers,
I don't
care.
Say fatherless home. I don't care.
I'm just adding. It's propaganda
I get
too.
it, right? Thank you for playing it out right here, right? Because for me, it is performative, right? I enjoy having these conversations because honestly, I don't give a fuck about some of this stuff to a certain extent, right? I don't. This is because I think there's a certain level of detachment that we need to have. Maybe that's me being stoic. But my point that I was making was that in terms of, yes, I was pushing back on Jay because Jay was trying to position it as if these qualities that women express are the things that she was talking about. No, she was not talking about those qualities. Y'all act like that she's not being specific in regards to certain behaviors when it comes to lack of problem-solving skills, especially in relationships, right? Or the emotional irregulation that some of these people go through. And yes, it may not be just men who are in single-parent homes, but again, if you look at the statistics, there's numbers to bear that out. So she's not making this shit up out of whole fucking cloth. So when y'all not have to go to these fucking extremes to make it seem as if there isn't some truth to what she's saying. And I'm only echoing the fact that when Jay was saying, oh, these are the characteristics of women, that made it seem like if you're a man and you exhibit these characteristics, what is she talking about? Maybe men should be more like women. In that case, that's bullshit. The way that we talk about women and their lack of emotional irregularity and the lack of logic and the ability to use logic at times, a lack of accountability, you can go down the fucking litany of things when we talk about the central points that maybe women should work on. Room for improvement. Can I say it that way? Does that land a little bit better? In one of those areas, it would be some of y'all's irrational emotionality. So yes, if that behavior is being shown to a young man and he is looking at that partially at times, because when does that type of emotion show up? When there's conflict, right? Think about it. When most people act the fool is when? Conflict. So you get to see how they resolve conflict. And every time they're resolving conflict, they're yelling, they're screaming, or behaving wildly, or cursing somebody out, or being the victim, right? Or having a certain mindset. That type of shit can be seen in front of a child who is impressionable from both a male and a female standpoint. Right? So if we were talking about how young women are out there raised to be hoes because they didn't have a father, yeah, let's stick to that too. But today we're talking about whether or not men who are raised in these type of households may show up a certain type of way in relationships, right? So let's just be honest about that. And I feel like when we run from the fact, and that's the name, if you're going to deny that, and I even built in, the thing that gets me is I even acknowledge the built-in parts that maybe emotional irregularity shows up because of just, science. Right. So, and so when y'all use that to y'all advantage, it's okay. But for me to point it out as a reason why sometimes y'all emotions tend to be a little bit difficult to regulate. Come on, man. Stop playing. And and this is the other thing that Jay said, that bullshit ass example about two people in a homosexual relationship. They're both women, fam. so just because one purports that do you know people in relationships, right? Because if you talk to them, you know what I'm saying? That bullshit of that presentation goes the fuck away when they're arguing. You know what I'm saying? You would hope that one person might come across a certain type of way. But yo, dog, they be bitching too. The fuck are we talking about? Fuck, they're human beings, fam, but they're women first, okay, in the context of which we're talking about. And you mentioned it, there's a reason why out of all the different relationship types, whether it's man-man, whether it's woman-man, whether it's woman-woman, as far as the most violent, the most eruptive, is guess who? Okay, that's just by coincidence, right? Okay, go ahead, man. And mind you, I'm not trying to pull the point that women who are emotional get into relationships and that leads them to be hoes and like Dr. Bryant did. I'm just making the point, like I said before, yes, we can have these generality conversations, right? Because I think that's where it makes sense. But once we start to drill down, it's like, all right, come on, sis. You adding up shit that don't really fucking add up. Okay, that's all I'm basically saying. And to that, y'all say what? Come on.
I say you got the next topic area, sir.
No, I want to give y'all some room to breathe. They say I talk too much, and I'll give y'all a chance to chum on. Chum on then. Chum on.
I mean, if we're gonna focus,
no. So I was moving on to the next topic because it flows right into the next topic, though.
Yeah, go ahead. It does.
Yeah. So speaking of people I have smoke for, you know what I'm saying? This is a perfect segue, right? It's fucking Manosphere, okay? So I'm watching Anton Daniels, okay? Kudos to him. I guess shout out to him, whatever he does on the socials, okay? So I guess apparently Obama was talking to his wife and his brother-in-law on their podcast. How riveting is that? And they were talking about the Manosphere. It came up. Now, mind you, Obama kind of came under heat from the Manosphere, I think last year during the election, because they felt like he was trying to scold them around the time that they were trying to get the push for Kamala, right? So the Manosphere, some of them, including Anton Daniels, had some smoke with Obama there. So when he spoke about the Manosphere, I think his ears were perked up to see what Obama would say. And I think the long and short of it was that Obama recognized that there is a voice out there. There are people talking, that young people are listening to some of these people, podcasters, ourselves included, I guess, and they're having an impact. And I think maybe for Anton, this was the first time that someone at Obama's level was actually acknowledging that, yes, podcasters and people who are talking about these things are influencing people, right? Because he was concerned about the young men that would meet his daughter. So I just thought, like, for us as the pod, I don't think we really talked a lot about the Manosphere. So I thought it was a really great time for us to talk about it. And I guess it depends, though, because I feel like Devin might be our resident Manosphere expert, right? But in general, though, like, just to kind of blanket it, I think the manosphere is a term that people use for a lot of the podcasters and influencers and voices who represent, I guess, the interest of men, masculinity, particularly in this modern dating environment, right? So think Kevin Samuels, think Fresh and Fit. Now, mind you, as I'm mentioning these people, Anton Daniels, I guess, they're not all the same. There's different subsections within these different groups who have a different ideology, but by and large, just like it says, manosphere is the sphere of conversation that's being had about men, how men should move, how men should date, how men should get themselves together, how men should improve. And so therefore, just to kind of simplify it, the manosphere, right? So what are your thoughts in terms of the manosphere as a whole, both its impact? Because I think that was one of the things that he was most excited about, was the fact that does the manosphere have an impact? Is it influencing how men are showing up and how they're having relationships with women? And I mean, I guess by extension, by large, podcasts and so on and so forth. So what are your thoughts about the manosphere and its impact? And the role that we play in it? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this last election is, they're calling it like the Manosphere election, or the podcast election, because most of the Democrats' platform, and not even just this election, last couple of election cycles, it's largely catered to women, and not even just on the political side, on the social side, between Me Too movement, various other movements. You can only tell men, I'm strong and independent. I don't need you for for so long. And at some point, they're going to say, okay, cool. And I think that's where that was a big origin of the manosphere. And as Nick said, there's a lot of different pieces of it. It's not just a one monolithic block. You've got Rollo Tomasi, you got over in the white manosphere. They've got their own things going on. Whatever podcast. You've got the MGTOW guys, men going their own way. You got Passport Bros. You got the kind of the black sector doing their thing. So it's a whole collective school of thought. But I think what happens is you found they got the higher profile guys like the Andrew Tates, maybe Kevin Samuels, and people kind of gravitate toward that and then say, oh, well, that's all the source of all our problems. And for guys who really kind of been in the space and really just kind of been around men, a lot of the stuff that you hear in these manosphere spaces is shit you'll hear in the barbershop. For a lot of men, none of this stuff is new. The issue is being heard for the first time, primarily by women. And I think a bigger problem that the manosphere is highlighting, a lot of men don't really tell y'all what they really think. They're either scared or they're going to either get canceled, or that's the other thing, the cancel culture. That's men are sick of that shit, losing out on access to vagina. That's another reason why men don't tell you guys the truth. So one of the big things that made the manosphere so impactful over the last 5 years, men are saying shit people are hearing for the first time, and it's making people sick. And it just manifested itself in the 2024 election. They're like, you know what? Fuck you. We're not going to do it. They tried to shame men into voting for a particular candidate, or what did they say? Women's rights or men's rights too. Like, no, man, give us something too. Between the college education numbers, just equality, and we want all of this. We want all these things from men. The men are just like, okay, well, shit, what are we getting out of the deal? And that's got a lot of people sick. People don't like that. The system doesn't like it because women are big consumers. They spend a lot of money. I think women, especially single women, are easier to gaslight with, propaganda, advertising, the government. So the manosphere just throws a wrench in all of that shit. So yeah, I think it's hilarious. I'm here for it. I love it.
I thought the S&M's going to jump in, but I think that, we're living in a global society, and we live in a place where there's so many males that don't have figures, or don't know how their manhood should be constructed or defined. It was natural that this would happen. I think we also live in an age where there's a lot of social engineering going on. So who you're listening to is just as important as whether or not you're listening, or that you have somebody to listen to. And so if we're talking about the people's choice of who they listen to and whether or not it creates these echo chambers, yeah, it does happen. But I still think that the discourse is necessary for any sort of society or culture. If Black people are going to have a culture, and we got to come up with some norms. So we have to have some conversations. So somebody somewhere has to say something and express an idea that then we can bounce around each other and figure out how we feel about it. I don't think there's anything bad about that. I think that really, honestly, it's funny to me because I feel like the reason he's making this point, it's funny when people go, don't listen to that person, is generally because they rather have you listening to them. And I think the better approach is to say, hey, as you're listening, here's some information that you should always filter it through. Here's some facts. Here's some principles or whatever. That, not don't listen to that person, because it's myopic and it's problematic. It makes me wonder what it is you don't want me to hear. I think people should be open to all sorts of ideas. So yes, there's this gender war that's happening, and yes, there's all these groups that Devin was talking about, that the splintering of certain demographics into these other little segments and groups, their own mindsets. But none of that's a problem unless we forget how to talk to each other. It's only a problem if we lose the ability to come back from whatever group we've been kicking it with and go talk to somebody who's not in the same group and say, listen, here's the stuff I heard or what I found out. What do you think about that? How does that match up or not match up with whatever you heard? And then we source it out. We do it in classrooms all the time. As a teacher, I get groups and I teach. That group learns one thing and the other group learns something different. And then I mix it back together so that every group has one person who's an expert on all these things. It's not a big deal. Who you're listening to, though, is a big deal. And I can't tell you how to pick who to listen to. I will say a wise old man once told me, if you know what's right, then you'll know who's right. I don't know if that helps. Go ahead. I don't know who's up.
So I want to say this. First, I give kudos to certain portions of the Manosphere. I give kudos to the portion that's all about building and uplifting, i.e. financial literacy, that type of stuff, career-oriented, that type of stuff. I give kudos to that part of the Manosphere because that seems like a village to me. But you know what I don't give kudos to? I don't give kudos to the part where it's always bashing women, right? You say you don't have a voice, or men in this particular space say that they're gathering just to talk about women, right? Or at least to me, that's what it seems like. They're gathering just to talk about women. And instead of talking about how to build with women, or they're only talking about, they're only bashing women. And that to me is a problem because that's not empowerment. That's escapism. You're not being silenced. You're actually just being challenged. And for some men, as we like to throw out the accountability word, accountability feels like disrespect. So now you're being challenged. You're being challenged to evolve to a certain point because women have rights now. Back in the day, we didn't have so many rights. And I'm going to differentiate between Black and white because there's always differentiate between along the race lines and whatnot. And so since we're specifically talking about the Manosphere, the Black Manosphere, as I like to call it, because I think the conversation was about how more Black men are joining the Manosphere. And I actually think it's because they feel like their take in life is being silenced right now. I think they feel like, because we're always talking about, as Devin pointed out, about how there seems to be a focus in the Democratic Party, as an example, on women. And I think there's a threat there. There's a need. There's some type of threat where, oh no, the women are taking over. And so therefore they're co-signing and joining the Manosphere, not for the purpose of building themselves to get to a certain point, but for the purpose of bashing women and having that echo chamber to say, oh, the women think they're all that. Let's try to put them back in a box. Let's punch down because they can't punch up. They can't punch to the side. So they want to punch down. And that's where a portion of the Manosphere come from. And I say this because to me, and I'm not part of the Manosphere. I don't even listen to any of those people in the Manosphere. So I'm an outsider. So you guys can correct me. Like I said, the part that I did enjoy was when they talked about financial literacy, when they talked about how you can be successful in your career and so forth. Even when they're talking about, hey, wait till you got the money, then the honey will come, or whatever the case may be. Even that's fine. But to me, the Manosphere, for the most part, feel like it's all about promoting these so-called hyper-masculine ideals, but at the same time, demonizing women and emotional vulnerability. So that's why we just talked about emotional vulnerability. And it's like, well, what other alternatives are being offered? If we're going to just demonize women and we're already somewhat demonizing emotional vulnerability, then what alternatives is the Manosphere offering? Is it offering the regulation of self-emotions? Is it offering how to build with women? Or is it telling them that you need to put the women back in the kitchen barefoot pregnant and shit like that? Now, once again, like I said, from what I've seen, there seems to be a lot of negativity and people like, oh, relationships are going to hell. Well, shit, look who you listening to. You look who you're listening to. That's why relationships are going to hell, coupled with what's already going on the women's side as well. I feel like the manosphere was basically a failure on men and women, right? We lack the ability to talk to each other, to build to each other, to listen with each other. And because we lack that ability, we end up having this rise of the manosphere. So I think that if it's really about male empowerment, or is it, but kind of comes off about reinforcing patriarchy. That's why we already have this whole, oh, let's get rid of all the women rights. And that's funny because a lot of times, well, that's what it seems like with, and not you guys, but in general, that's what it seems like. It's like, let's roll back to women's rights. All I'm going to say this is that ultimately the manosphere, one of the main talking points that I found besides it seems to be all about bashing women, is that they're like, oh, the feminists ruin women, feminists this, feminists that. But feminist was never about being anti-men. It was about anti-oppression. It was about, hey, can we get some rights? Can we do things? Can we not be considered property? Can we have choices? And that seems to be an issue in the manosphere about giving women the right to have choices. And because we now have choices, it feels like for some reason, how can I put it nicely? You no longer feel like you have the power that you had previously as women continue to gain choices, and hence why there seems to be a rollback. But once again, like I said, I'm not in the manosphere. I barely listen to that shit because I don't understand why are men more comfortable listening to influencers like Andrew Tate. And I give Kevin Samuels props because at one point he actually was talking to the men in regards to what they could do. And even when he talked to the women, the women, first of all, was calling in for the purpose of getting critiqued by him. And so he still was providing them with valuable advice. And so for that, I give him props. He actually tried to be even-sided as much as possible. And he started off building Black men in the first place. So that's just, like I said, I'm not really involved in that because fuck the manosphere.
Well, for somebody who's not really,
I had to do
listen to it
research.
very much, who don't, whatever, you sure had a lot to say.
Because I had to do research.
Ma'am,
I think you might
have reached your word count for this. For someone who doesn't listen to the manosphere, either you're lying, right? You even gave Kevin Samuels some kudos. He did a lot of research this yesterday. Kudos to you, but it's okay, right? And this is what's is so awesome. And I'm pointing this out on purpose, because there's a lot of women who don't know shit about the manosphere who got a lot to say about it, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because people draw conclusions about an entire thing, even though it might just be some radicals or wings of those things. Like, you can't control every human being. Every human being who might be attached to the fraternity that I'm a member of, or the sorority that you're a member of, right? They're not all going to represent us. Matter of fact, a couple of episodes ago, there were people who decried our organizations. Does that mean they represent? No. But unfortunately, right, those people do exist, and we only pay attention to them because we pay attention to the drama. And that's partly on us, right? That's one. Number two, this idea of bashing women is funny to me because just to have a critique or to try to hold someone accountable in any type of way seems like bashing to y'all a lot of times, right? A lot of times. And we joke about the emotional ears. By the way, go ahead and cop your shirt right now. But the reason why the communication is tough between men and women is because sometimes y'all don't listen. There's a conversation being had about whether or not y'all really care about us to a certain extent, like whether or not men are cared for in society as a whole, let alone like their mental health, their emotional well-being, right? And then whether or not women even care either, right? Because if a person cares, you would think they'd be open to hearing your grievances, your concerns, right? And want to do their part to improve on the relationship. But if every time a man is making a statement that might seem negative towards a woman, it feels like bashing, that's a problem. Are there men who bash women? Absolutely. Some of those men either pander or bash because they know there's money in it. Fools on us, or shame on us for that. But the truth is, when we're having genuine conversations, it doesn't matter what the topic is. If there's something that's negative towards women, it can't just be, you know what, I give you that. That's what's up. I accept that, right? No. So yes, if men are going to have conversations amongst men, guess what? Women are going to show up. You know why? Because we do want to be with y'all. Right? I think a lot of times on this show, I listen to the hurt. So I listen past the hurt. So the guys who are out here bitching and moaning, what I hear is a nigga who secretly down deep wants to be with someone, wants to be better than what he is, but he just doesn't have the tools. And some of these charlatans and grifters on the websites will go out there and take their money. Let me teach you how to pick up a girl. I saw a video of a guy paying $3,000 to learn how to pick up women. It's about the jacket that you wore. Right? So there's grifters in the space, right? And they tend to then identify it. But by and large, there are organizations, there are people who are trying to, yes, help men. You know why? Because we've let them down. right? It's not the present generation. The older generation has let down the younger generation, right? We stopped giving them people to listen to. So guess what? They got to go elsewhere to get the information. So we talked about single mothers. If they were raised in a single mother home and did not have a man in the home, then what is going to happen when there's these men presenting themselves as alpha males that you should follow me to have what I have so you can be like me? They're going to follow them, right? So it's like, you know what I'm saying? There's consequences, right? Some of those same men are reacting emotionally. This idea of, I've never in my life heard of men just being, I'm going to hold my dick because it's just crazy out here. You know what I'm saying? Shit that women do in terms of being celibate. All of a sudden there's incels. The fuck is that? If that ain't the most, never mind. But the point that I'm making is that we have let down these young men because as we get married, as we go on to our lives, we're not reinvesting into the young people and providing them maybe enough males, men to be around them to help teach them and grow. How many dudes are out here being coaches or volunteering their times? I mean, many of us might just barely be getting by and may not have the bandwidth because we got to take care of our families first. But those households that don't have men, guess what? You know what I'm saying? They're going to fend for themselves to a certain extent. So those young men, then now you can scale up masculinity. Now you can have the Andrew Tates who can speak well and how he gets women, how he commands himself. He got a couple of dollars. So yes, these guys are looking up to these other guys because they're more attainable. They can't be LeBron James, but they can be Ace Metaphor. You know what I'm saying? Or they can try to figure out. So I'm just saying, like, I get that we want to blame podcasters all the time. But I think if we really look at it, we got to blame us. And when I say us as the older generation too, because we as older people do some fuck shit towards the younger people, right? Because I remember when I was younger, how it felt when a young older brother was trying to like put me up on game, but he looked past me. He act like he was never as young as I was. So none of us as young, rebellious people are going to listen to somebody who's judging us. Get the fuck out of here, right? We don't meet people where they are, right? So we talk down to them and expect them to follow us, right? And I wasn't with that shit. I know a lot of young men aren't. So when I talk to young men, I'm not judging them for what? You know what I'm saying? Like, because if I'm trying to reach them, I don't think judgment is the way to go. And that's why I fucking hate some of these Manosphere niggas, because truthfully, some of them low-key are judging y'all and y'all fall for it. You know what I'm saying? Some of them, I mean, pause right there because there's more to this Manosphere shit, but there's a lot of toxic shit that I do hear in the Manosphere. That's some bullshit. Am I going to blame that on the whole? No. I'd call out the individuals and say, no, that nigga who said that, that's some fucked up shit. Because different people are allowed to have a different opinion, even if they agree generally in regards to the needs that men have in terms of improvement. But there's some charlatans out there who are, I think, doing our community a disservice. Right. And so, Jay, you said, oh, everybody should be able to. You're right. Everybody should be able to. But we have to do better about who the fuck we listen to. You know what I'm saying? Y'all can't discern the mother. Y'all wouldn't go to a dentist if their teeth was fucked up. So y'all listening to a woman who's never been because she's whatever, man. So my point is that I think we got to be the ones, the consumers of content, number one, have to be held accountable and be responsible for what they choose to listen to. Right. Number one. And I also think big picture, we as older men, we got to put the younger men more on game. And I think that's one of the reasons why we started a podcast, because we're going to talk our talk and be toxic or whatever. But at the heart of it, it's like there's some truth to what the fuck we want to talk about. Like, it's not about completely bashing women. That's why if you guys ever notice, SNM will say, well, I'm not talking about the guys here. Maybe she's being polite and low-key is talking about us, right? But by and large, yes, we can kind of hit those toxic notes. But the truth of the matter is, right, that some of that shit is bullshit and problematic, right? It's not, I don't think the manosphere as a whole. And I think a lot of times when women hear that, they only focus on the one or two parts they don't like, not thinking that, unfortunately, this does serve a purpose. There are some some men whose lives have probably been improved, right? Because somebody told them that they needed to make more money to be able to be the type of guy that they thought they could be, right? Because there's some delusional niggas out here who thought they could just be whatever and get whatever. So maybe some guys need to hear that and maybe impacted them. Right. But I think there's a lot of house cleaning that needs to happen in the manosphere in terms of other men who are in that space or in the podcasting space to stand up and say, not some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And I think if more people do that, then maybe you give more voices or more audience a chance to listen to voices that sometimes can make sense, as opposed to just selling y'all some bullshit that's really undermining y'all. Y'all don't even fucking know it.
Yeah, and a lot of the manosphere space, the more ideas, the more clash of ideas, the better. I'm a big believer. Iron sharpens iron. But from the people from the outside looking in, everything that they don't like is considered bashing, and a lot of the presumption is that women are your sugar, spice, and everything nice. It's the halo effect. And there is a lot of talk about, interacting with women, how to get the kind of results you want with women. There's a lot of self-improvement content. Chase the bag and before you chase women, how to be the best version of yourself, get your money up, eat right, exercise. all this kind of stuff. And one of the things that women talk about they're considered bashing in the manosphere space on the white side and and the black side is women can be shitty people, and you need to look out for that kind of stuff. And it's okay to point it out. Anytime that there's any kind of criticism, I don't care if it's about weight or single mothers or dating them or what kind of woman you want for your life. Like, oh, you're bashing women. Like, no, I'm just pointing out she's a shitty person, and that's okay. That's not bashing. That's an objective observation. But if you can say, and this is what one of the things that we've talked about before, like you can say pretty much anything you want to about a man in public space. Doesn't matter how agree he's a misogynist, he's just an awful human being. You can pretty much say anything you want about
He's
men in
homosexual.
public. Yeah, he's homosexual.
Sassy.
Yeah, sassy. Do those inverses towards women in public and watch how quickly you get canceled. There's no analog to the type of public discourse latitude that women have had, at least for the last 40, 50 years. There isn't. I would love to see it, but it doesn't exist. So that's, the Manosphere is a reaction to something. It's not a, hey, well, let's all get together and hate women and let's put it out all on the internet. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's great. That's not how it happened. It's a reaction to something.
So I'm going to answer your rhetorical question and give you an example because, of course, that's what I do. Your rhetorical question about give you an example of when women are dragged every single time a woman moves on in a relationship that's public, she get dragged and being called for the streets. That's an example. Now, that brings us to a subset of the Manosphere, the passport bros.
No, because I want to say this. My biggest problem with the Manosphere is that y'all niggas be selling wolf tickets, right? Like, not every dude is going to be the alpha dude who's going to make all this money. I get the whole idea of go out there and get the bag. For whom it applies, yes, please apply it. But I think what the problem I have is that it sells the same fucking delusion that everybody can do everything all the fucking time. No, you can't. Right? You can't. I'm sorry. If you have not had a track record of doing certain things, maybe your lot in life is just being a good father and a good husband, my nigga. This idea that everybody got to go out there. What triggered it was when Devin was talking about, go out there and get the bag before you get the girl. That is such a fucking cookie cutter bullshit way to look at life to a certain extent, because some of us actually found the girl while we were on the way to getting the bag. You know what I'm saying? Like, this mindset that pushes men to want to maybe settle down later in life because there's this formula they have to follow that's going to lead to happiness, right? The fuck out of here. That's not necessarily a formula for everybody. And I hate that they position men to feel like you're less than a man if you don't reach these heights or if you don't do these things. Right? They start to redefine what manhood is or masculinity is and put more on it. Nah, bruh, handle your responsibilities, right? Be able to regulate your emotion on some level, right? Have some level of logic in your decision making. Try to lead yourself, if not a household. Like, it could be real simple, but they start adding things like, oh, in order to be the man, you got to have a fucking bag because you want that dime piece. This shit is so fucking ridiculously cookie cutter. It's like high school. You got to be the quarterback to get the fucking cheerleader and shit. That's just dumb. You replace quarterback with the hot nigga, lit nigga. You place the cheerleader with the IG baddie. That's the shit that we talk about, right? The other thing that gets me, though, too, is this whole conversation around single mothers, right? Because Anton says this shit a lot, too. Hey, you're a simp if you get with a woman who is a single mom. What? Does that not take into account the guy on any level? Oh, he's an ace boom cool. He's a top tier nigga, huh? The guy. I can see if you're saying a guy who moves a certain type of way, maybe he has better options. Cool. But we're not talking about all guys, are we? How about the guy who's a single father, too? He got a couple of baby moms. You mean to tell me he can't, build a family with a woman who has a child? Maybe she's smart. They put their pennies, their dollars together and build that shit, that blanket type of statement like all men who do these things that's fucking ridiculous. Some of y'all, the baddest that you'll ever get is going to be a single mom. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? It just supposes that all niggas are alpha top tier niggas. If that's the case, there would be no such thing as top tier niggas. Right? Not everybody can be that, and that's okay. If you came from a lineage where your daddy wasn't there, then maybe the best thing that you can do is be there for your fucking kids. You know what I'm saying? Retire. Play with your grandkids. You ain't make $1 million, but maybe you change the course of your legacy and lineage by just being fucking there. The idea that niggas got to be everything for everybody. That's the thing that I really push back on S&M, because I think just like women who have these unrealistic ideas of what's out there for them, and then they delay what should be for them in the now because of some bullshit that somebody sold them, and they wake up like, what happened to my life? That's why some of these niggas are fucking miserable. They spend a lot of their time listening to other people. My God, you were probably always good enough. You dig what I'm saying? Before, it was women telling you that you're not good enough. Now it's dudes low-key on the sly telling you that you're not good enough. You know what I'm saying? I'm here to tell you, Jay made his address, my brothers, you are good enough, right? Where you are. If you want to be better than when you are, then move forward in that way. But decide it for yourself, not because some nigga on a fucking podcast got you feeling less than. What's that yada nigga? Oh, niggas got to take care of their families 100%. My wife never touches it. Nigga, shut your ass up. There's a lot of these niggas in their spaces talking all this shit, and they don't give a fuck about men for real, for real. All they're doing is trying to make money off of men and poke their chest out about how they didn't do a thing. Yes, I didn't marry a single mom. My wife didn't have kids. But guess what? If I wasn't married and the woman was fired, I would. I'm not going to come on here and poke out how much better I am than niggas just because that wasn't my circumstance. That's what these niggas are doing, dog. You know what I'm saying? And the last thing is, when we was having that conversation about having the fathers at home, my dad was there, bro. I am not the type of nigga who feel like because I had an experience, you got to have the experience. I don't necessarily judge and isolate people just because they had a different experience. That's why I would never do that. You get what I'm saying? That's what a lot of these niggas do. And Cheyenne Bryant. You know what I'm saying? And I just got to call that shit out. Wake the fuck up. These niggas are playing in your face, right? And not giving you nothing back of real value because they don't know you. You heard what I'm saying? I just had to say that, man. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Any other final thoughts, or did Nick ring the bell on that one?
Motherfuckers.
Well, whoever you listen to, don't, and especially whether it's Cheyenne Bryant, her particularly, or any podcast people, never listen to people who don't have the shit they're talking about. Like, oh, I'm going to tell you how to get in this relationship, but you don't have a relationship. Or I'm going to tell you how to get a family. You don't have one. So that's just a good rule of thumb. Whoever you listen to, make sure they have the shit they're telling you how to get. I'm going to land on that.
All right,
you know what?
Go ahead,
Check
Jay.
their paperwork too. Check their paperwork, because some people reinvent themselves 5-6 times.
That's a fact.
They'll be an expert on ABC one day, expert on 1, 2, 3 the next day, and they're just an expert on whatever's trending. So you know what I'm saying? Check their paperwork. See what they've been doing for a while before you go off and change your whole life. You'd be better off listening to ChatGPT, and even the owner of that said that you should check it. So go ahead, Ashley.
So then, speaking of checking paperwork, are we going to be checking Paul Pierce's paperwork, since he has recently been on a podcast to talk about how American women lack the values that foreign women uphold? As a matter of fact, he stated that folks should basically just get their passport and head overseas to get that woman, because all American women do is twerk. So do you guys believe this is truth, trash, or is he speaking from a place of trauma?
All things can be true at one time. Okay, I don't necessarily hold that it's true. It is more trash, and I think it probably does come from some trauma. If I had to say, I'd say Paul Pierce jumped out the window on this one. I mean, I understand that. I think the conversation he's trying to make, and I know he got a lot of support from the Passport Bros and everything, but if we slow it down and we really look at it, okay, so what values are we talking about? We talking about submission? We talking about silence? We talking about hard work? What values are we talking about? Because I think what he's really talking about is the first two, right? What we talk about is less pushback, maybe a little less mouth. You know what I mean? Because when men say foreign women are more traditional and more feminine, I think they're thinking of, like, you know, the more Asian cultures, or the women that are a lot quieter and more subdued or whatever. I'm surely not thinking about Latin American cultures, because them women be spicy. So what they often mean, I think, is less likely to challenge them. And to be honest, some dudes don't want to challenge. They express love by their ability to control. But I'm not talking for those dudes, okay? And I'm not saying that femininity should be a performance. I feel like it should be unlocked. Women should be soft around whoever makes them feel soft. But I don't think that's what Paul Pierce is saying. And I don't think he's saying that foreign women have better coochie. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that's what he's saying, but I am happy to travel if I need to find out. I think what he's saying, though, is there's an element of expectation that exists in Western women. Not just expectation, entitlement. There's an element of entitlement. There's an element of, I should have this simply because I breathe. Simply because I breathe and my skin is melanated. Simply because I breathe and I have WAP. I should have. And that is amazing because there's lots of women out there with you know what I'm saying, vaginas. I think all of them. That's a whole other conversation from a previous show.
Though, but go ahead.
That's a whole other conversation. And I'll land on this. I think that the real thing is that Black women are catching a little bit of that, because when people are thinking about American women and they think about the virtues and values, whatever, and then here's Paul Pierce, a Black guy, saying it, you think he's talking about Black women, maybe. And you think, oh my God, he's talking about how, you know, the stigmas of being too loud, too masculine, too independent. You know, when, you know, Black women will say that they've been this way because they feel like they were too unprotected or too underappreciated or too exhausted. You know what I mean? There's a balance to everything. There's another story for everything. I think that the truth, if there's any truth in what he said, the truth is that I think American women are more entitled. I think women from other countries, a lot of them having been, at least especially the passport bro countries, having been in a place where they don't have access to as much luxury, as much of the frivolous things that discretionary spending can buy you, there's not as much entitlement. There's more gratitude. You know what I'm saying? You do something, oh my God, thank you so much. Yeah, because the expectation is not to be a quadrillionaire. These people are just looking for a good life and somebody that loves them. So I'm not knocking anybody's passport. Go where you celebrate it. Get your love where you find it. And it's better to be loved over in Japan and tolerated in America, right? But don't sell it like you're doing a moral high ground, or like you have found out that just because a woman is in America, it makes her not eligible. That's not it. It's just where her mind is, and more where her mind is than where her body is. Because flying 6,000 miles to avoid growth is not going to change what really needs to be changed. And that's the way you look at relationships. So I wrap it up with saying this. If what you're really looking for is peace and a partnership and a presence, which is not what Paul Pierce is looking for, he's looking for the poo-tang. Then if you're looking for that, start with yourself. If you're looking for poo-tang, then just realize the values aren't different. They're just more upfront because it's clearly transactional when you go overseas. Peace. Go ahead.
Oh my God, the cap here is crazy.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Nick.
Fuck, Jay. I feel like 1 minute you were trying to not say it, and then it sounded like you were saying it, but like explaining why that might be the case. Am I the only one who got that? When you were describing, well, you know, maybe because financial conditions are such that maybe she's going to. That's what the fuck he's talking about, bro. What the fuck? He is talking about what the passport bros talk about, is that when it comes to the values that men value in women, when it comes to marriage and relationships, that women in other countries have that more in mass or in general than women here. Right? Can we have a specific? Y'all be tap dancing like Gregory Hines on some of these conversations, right? We're not talking about everybody. So let's take off the table, okay? So please, nobody said, oh, we're not saying that, right? Can we talk about whether or not, in general, right? Is there some truth to what he's saying, right? Are there women in other cultures outside of the U.S. they might present in a way that is more appealing to men who are marriage-minded, right? We can get into the reasons why, but like, are y'all denying that? Or what?
No, it's true. But when you get them to America, they become Americanized. It goes away.
Sorry, brother. Save me that umfufu retread, okay? You answered my question. So you're saying that he is right then. You're saying you agree with him if you say what I said was true, right? That in general, there are women in other countries who have a values or a system or whatever, how they show up, that some American men value more. What's so hard to say about that? And let me tell you why I feel like that was rhetorical. Fuck it. Let me tell you why I think it's hard for y'all to say that, right? Because in the last segment, right, we talked about, I think S&M in specifics was talking about how women have progressed in their careers, how sometimes some men are actually in backlash because of how far women have come, yada, yada, in society. Well, if women are more out there doing their thing, making their own choices and living their lives, their body, their choice, etc., being more independent, right? That doesn't seem like a trait or a value or whatever the fuck you want to call it that men would value. Like, who wants that necessarily? I'm not saying it's all women. I'm saying if in general, what you hear is the bad bitches, the boss bitches, whatever you fill in the blank, you know what I'm saying? Lawyer bae, whatever bae, right? These are working women, right? And they have to work. I'm not knocking that. But what I'm saying is with that, right, comes certain ego. You're making your own money. You're doing your own thing. Why should you have to acquiesce? I could do my own. I'm gonna be a rich auntie. We hear the conversations. We hear how some women are saying that they're gonna abdicate having kids, having family. Why? Because so what I'm saying is, are we gonna pretend that what he's saying is not there's a high level of truth, especially in probably the most industrialized and capitalistic country. Right? We forget that the American influence exports. So part of the American culture is this idea that we all out here hustling, working to get it, and family is becoming later in life. There's statistics that talk about the younger generation pushing back when they want to even have kids, let alone marriage, let alone buying homes, right? You're talking about ways that people are untethering themselves to traditions or maybe some values that we might, how many people jump the broom anymore? My point is that it's hard to have these conversations. I'm sorry, maybe that's more traditions. It's hard for us to have these conversations when if we exclude the others, we know there's problems in our community. We know there's issues between men and women, right? We know this. And part of it, yes, it's men's fault, I guess, however way you want to define it. Make more money, be more manly, stop being a sassy. Okay, cool, got it. But guys are also saying, hey, could you be more fit, friendly, and feminine? Right. And then they're saying, hey, there are more of those women over there. And yes, it could be for socioeconomic reasons, but let's not act like most of us in America are making decisions off of socioeconomic issues. Just because they're poorer doesn't mean the motivation changes. The fuck out of here. The difference is that maybe that brother's dollar can stretch a little bit longer. Maybe I should call it won or whatever the fuck you call it out there. The pesos, the dineros. That's right. It stretches longer. Now, for a Paul Pierce type of dude to say that, I was shocked because, I mean, you would figure that Paul, being a man of means, would be able to get the type of, submission, et cetera, that he'd want. So maybe, I don't know if he was speaking for himself or he was speaking for others or whatever, but for him to say that, maybe he's also saying that where he's at with it in life and the women that he's coming across, that he's also finding that those women tend to be a little bit more. So rather than pushing back on it, women, ladies, right, automatically, because that's the knee-jerk reaction of defensiveness, right? Defensiveness. Can we just acknowledge that, okay, if we have a problem with him saying that, there's only one way to fix it. Tell us that you're not that then. Show up in the way that says, hey, you know what? Paul's not right. I like to submit to my man. You know what I'm saying? I want a family, right? I don't know if I'm hearing more women say, I don't need a man, or I don't need a family, I'm gonna be a rich auntie, versus the women that I'm publicly hearing say, oh, I want a husband. Oh, wait a minute. If they do that in public, they're called pick-me's, right? So what the fuck are we talking about? Even Black women who are trying to show you, hey, you guys, I'm here for that. You have other women calling them pick-me's. And them same women who would call them pick-me's would be the same one who have a problem with this to say like somehow it's not true what he's saying. But I'm not calling anybody out specifically about that, but I waited to hear some feedback in regards to how Paul is so wrong about what he just said.
So before you go, Devin, I just want to push back a little bit on the pick me part and clarify the pick me. They're not being called a pick me because they say they want a husband. They're being called a pick me because they do it to the detriment of other women, as in they take steps, i.e. demonize other Black women or so forth, or women in general, to be that pick me. Not that, oh, I want a husband. Shit, I have a husband. I love my husband. I don't consider myself a pick me, even though if you look at the whole thing, say, oh, but you were picked. Most men are like, oh, but you were picked. But no, the pick me is to the detriment of other women. Their actions is to the detriment, is the part of the definition. But I'm just saying, I just want to put that out there. You can look it up on Urban Slang. That's literally the fucking definition of a pick me.
What I'm saying is, the reason why I'm calling cap is because, again, anything that's a slight towards Black women, a Black woman can say, oh, that's a detriment to Black women. So if a Black woman is trying to hold other Black women accountable in the public space, a woman can use that and say it's pick me. Also, I've heard women who barely even interacted with other women automatically look at that woman as a pick me because of certain things that wasn't even relevant. So I'm saying we got to be careful about that. But the larger point wasn't even about the pick me part. It was about whether or not women who are espousing certain things in public, other women will view them as pick-me's, credibly or not. And I'm telling you, most women that I hear, when they hear other women, they don't go into their backgrounds, none of that. As soon as they hear that kind of talk, they automatically got the little pick-me ears up. So all I'm simply saying is for the women who would do that and then get mad at this, to me, it's incongruent. That's what I'm saying. Right? You can't be like, oh, no, we are the most feminine. We are the most family-oriented. We are the most marriage. And a woman saying that, you're like, no, bitch, shut the fuck up. You can pick me. It's not congruent, is what I'm saying. That's the only point I'm making.
Roger that. Go ahead, Devin.
No, I was going to say, I think Paul's got a point, and we're going to rule out, I'm not talking about the sex tourist guys. We're talking about just about values, guys over there looking for wives and long-term relationships and different things that they value. That's what we're talking about. I haven't personally done a lot of international dating, but from guys that I have talked to that have traveled to a lot of different countries, they said there is a different cultural value mindset. And like it or not, the sisterhood in particular, the dating and sexual marketplace, it's global now. You can't undo it. You're competing with everybody from everywhere. That's where we are now, and it's not going to ever be undone. So as Nick brought up earlier, like, hey, listen, why stay over here and try to fight for this thing that they don't want to do, and they've said they don't want to do it. They're doing it in bulk over there. Let's just go over there. Like, okay, cool. And that gets to how women will say, oh, well, passport bros are broke or passport bros are dusty. Man, you ever flown to Thailand? That's not broke dude activities. I mean, those two things, they don't even make sense. So stop calling the passport bros broke and dusty and living with their mom. Those things really don't even make sense. So if they're getting more bang for their buck over there, more power to them. You know, and I do want to say, in the DR, a 5 in the DR is like an 8 over here in the States. I just want to say that.
And I would like to add that in the DR, there's an HIV rate that is skyrocketing thanks to the passport bros, and apparently their lack of.
So let me get this. So I got a reaction
passport
to that.
bros.
So
No,
you throw
let me
up
not
countries
throw
that was
shade,
there before.
but for real though, you can actually look it up. They say there's a rise in HIV overall though, but particularly in the DR. So since you wanted to point that out, I want to say just wrap it up. I support passport bros. I say go where you love.
Wow,
go where you love. Just wrap it up. Don't bring shit back. Wrap it up. If you do bring your wife back, then go ahead and make sure she's not here for the green card, because at the end of the day, it's still transactional. They're coming with their values, right? They're coming with the value of being the wife and so forth, because according to the passport bros, that they've been raised to be traditional, i.e. cook, clean, and all that good stuff, which I 100% support them being raised for that. But one thing that we don't talk about, that the passport bros don't talk about, is the fact that their stuff is transactional. You have to come with something, i.e. money. You have to come with, because they don't marry for love. They marry for support, stability, and who can take care of them. They're not
talking about the women
for
over
love.
there or the women over here?
The women, I'm saying,
both.
I'm talking about both, but they don't talk about it. Here is demonized if a woman's looking for stability because she's called a gold digger. But at the same time, over there, it's only in the Western world that women even look for love first, or used to look for love first, before it became this whole transactional thing that it is today. Over there, they look for stability first. They're not marrying you because they like, oh, you so cute and I love you. No, they're marrying you because they think they're going to get stability from you, because that's their first and foremost requirement, is stability. So
what's wrong with that?
What I'm saying is that passport bros, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. What I'm saying is that when women in America want stability first, they get demonized and called gold diggers. They get demonized
because it's less bang for buck.
Transactional.
That's because women in America want stability on the first date. That's why. Like, what is that? They want a down payment. Go ahead.
They want that.
First of all, you can't even talk to a path. You can't even get into a conversation unless you bring stability to these other women. I'm supporting though. Once again, I support it. I say go ahead. Look, I say go ahead. I think you should go where you love. For those who don't have a passport, I encourage them to get a passport, because I think you should go. I think there's women everywhere. So go where you love. What I'm saying is stop demonizing us for the same shit you're getting from over there, i.e. the whole transactional relationship that you keep clowning us for, when in reality they're looking for the same thing. They don't even think about love first. They think about stability first. They think about lineage first. They think about, what can I do to make sure that whatever children I have are protected? But we're demonized for that. That's all I'm saying. I don't care if passport bros go get their rocks off, if they come back and with a wife or without a wife. I don't care about any of that. What I'm saying is stop demonizing us. And in particular, Paul Pierce, in particular, he said American women was too busy twerking. And I was like, what women are he talking about? Because on my timeline, on my feed, say again?
At brunch. Yeah. So when he started
that
talking
means
about
he's watching the wrong thing, because I know a whole lot of women.
Ma'am, you're married and you're in the house.
And they're not.
You're married in the house.
I'm saying it doesn't matter that I'm married in the house.
It does matter.
I have friends who are single. What I'm saying is, what the hell is he watching? I'm saying that there's a social media propaganda that's constantly putting Black women in negative lights, because it's benefit to keep Black women in a negative light. Y'all think this divide is on purpose? Yes, we do have bad characters, just like y'all have bad characters for Black men, but we don't constantly say, oh, well, we need to get passport because y'all thugs, y'all criminals, y'all this, y'all that. But here we got Paul Pierce on his platform saying American Black women, all they doing is twerking. Okay, sir, that's one subset. That's one group. I'm just saying,
I'm gonna say this real quick. This is a Western thing, because if you look at, who marries out the most? It ain't Black men, it's white men. They've been doing this stuff for years. It's just kind of come up in the Black, spaces the last couple of years. That's who's doing it the most.
Oh no, go ahead.
Well, and the point I want to address as him is, yeah, you're right to roast about the economics of it here. Like, look, they want the same thing that you want, but yeah, I don't have a problem with the inflated prices, and that's okay.
Right. So what Devin's saying is there's a discount. And Nick, I know you're about to say something. I'll be real short. Cardi B and who's that? Sexy Red. Okay, now they are not my particular ideas for role models, but they are iconic women in American culture right now. Okay. Both of these women, I think, would tell you in a minute they can't cook and they can't clean. Cardi wrote a whole song about it.
But she still got that ring.
But she still got that ring, right? And the expectation, the entitlement I'm speaking of, is the idea that you don't have to have some basic skills in order to secure the ring or secure the bag. That is the value I think he might be talking about. So push back on S&M, all that BS she was talking about. And just a few
None of it is BS. This is transactional. None of it is BS.
I'm gonna ask you before I continue, I'm gonna just ask you a simple question. So you believe that American women are more family oriented than some of these other less developed countries?
I'm not saying that.
I know you're not saying that. I'm just asking a very simple question because there's a larger point that I want to make. And so it's not a trick question. I think it's a legit question because that's the point of the topic. As I'm looking at the pre-production, Paul Pierce made waves claiming that American women lack the values, and I assume them to mean in regards to when it comes to family, like prioritizing family regardless of the reason, right? I'm asking you, do you disagree with that statement on the face of it, right? Because I want to see if we're going to be honest a little bit in terms of whether or not you think that American women are as family and
no, they're not.
Family first oriented.
No, they're not.
Okay, cool. I'm glad we could just arrive at that, right? Because I don't think there's anything wrong in acknowledging that, right? If a person feels some type to me, so I feel like if you agree with me, that doesn't mean he's bashing American women. Now, if you're talking about the part where he says, oh, they're twerking and the other attributes, I can see where you're going with that, but I'm going to give him license for creative flair because he's doing a fucking podcast. And I do that sometimes too. So maybe that's why, and I think you do that sometimes too. So I'm going to give him a pass on that. But if we're talking about the meat of what he's talking about and you agree with what he's saying, that's not where the conversation is. But here's how my brain works. When I hear a complaint, my brain says, okay, if I have a problem with it, how can I address it? Why do you feel that way? Is there some truth there? Are there some things I need to look inwardly that I want to change because I'm unsettled? That's one approach. The other approach is I don't give a fuck. He's right. I'm going to still go find me a man because like Jay said, I don't got to do none of those things and I can still go out there and find a man. So that guy who doesn't value those same things, he's going to be over there and then you wasn't checking for him in the first place, right? So I'm just trying to, so my brain just kind of shifts through. That's the logic side of me shifting through. And I guess because it's not talking about me specifically, maybe I'm not emotional about it, right?
I'm not emotional.
I didn't say you were, but
sure,
I guess apparently
to me it seemed like you implied. No, it seemed like you applied that I was being emotional because I'm the only woman on the panel speaking about it.
You are not emotional, S&M. It's just your ears.
Yeah.
Whatever. Look, all I know is this. Go ahead, finish your statement because I have a question for you guys. Why? So finish your statement because I have a question for you guys.
Although, listen, because I was going to also say, because I got to be fair and balanced. The passport shit, because I didn't really want to talk about Passport Bros specifically. I get they're the ones who kind of hijack this idea that you can go to other countries or whatever. But if you're being honest, I feel like a lot of that is a front. I don't think it's real. It goes back to what I was saying earlier about the Manosphere space and people selling people pipe dreams. In fact, one of the videos that I saw the guy paying $3,000 for the pickup artist bullshit was in, I think, Colombia. Right? So yes, I think there's a bunch of grifters in the space selling people on this dream because guess what? When y'all niggas go overseas, if you don't know the language, it's going to be a tough ride. Right? You got to be committed enough to try to learn the language, try to learn enough about the culture. I get that it looks cute on an Instagram video for a weekend or whatnot, but if you're talking about making a serious commitment to find a wife, there's more you got to do to kind of build a life, or at least understand the life down there. So when I hear people talk, I know a lot of this bullshit. That's why I don't really give a fuck about the passport bros. A lot of them niggas, yes, some guys are traveling, some guys get great content, but the truth of it is most of them niggas ain't out there looking for the wives. Most of them niggas ain't really traveling like that, right? And most of them niggas ain't got game for real, for real. I'm being honest. At least the ones that I have been in the company of seeing in certain spots. It's like, wow, dude, calm that shit down, my guy. I'm about to tell myself, yo, you be at a spot, you be like, damn, dog, you don't even have to work that hard, my G. What are you doing? You're making us look bad.
Yeah, if you need 3,000 for somebody to tell you how to pick up somebody in Colombia, you're doing it wrong.
Come on, dog, right? So
you're corny over here, you're corny over there.
No, because I feel like it's one of those things that became a boogeyman, right? The whole thing, even with the passport bros, what they're really saying, the ones who ain't really out there, because I'll be honest, I haven't seen too many of them come back with wives. That's why I'm saying that. If I'm wrong, all y'all passport bros out there who found y'all wives and shit, please let me know. What's ironic is I have a close friend who did find him a significant other who does mean something to him, and I can see that relationship developing. So I'm not saying it can't happen. But what I'm saying is, by and large, by the numbers, it's not happening like that. So we talk about them like they're real for real, and they're not. And the ones who are actually getting married, they're not on the social media like that for real, for real. You know what I'm saying? They're just living their fucking lives. So I just got to say, push back on that. But the true conversation that we run from is whether or not women are showing up the way that they think they are, or the way that men want them to. And there's a conversation to be had there. And actually, the last thing I'm going to say too on this, and I'll shut up. So listen, I'm part traditional and I'm part modern, right? So in my household, we kind of run a mixture of both. And I found a partner who that works with. I think this idea that women or men are going to be all these one things, that's a lie too. Because some guys don't want all that. You get bored with the shit. Maybe she ain't the best cook. She's doing the best she can. You can't really complain, right? But it's like, y'all expect her to be the best cook, the best maids, the best fuck. Nah, dog. You know, to understand you, to be able to communicate, for her to be emotionally intelligent. Sometimes you got to pick the basket of the things you prioritize and run the fuck with it, okay? So all this talk about you gonna get this, because each option comes with a flip side. So just like Black women or American women have a flip side, and guess what? So does Mariella, okay? You just at least know what that flip side is and make sure it lines up with your priorities. That's all I'm saying. Mariella's idol.
That's good advice.
So the question that I had for you guys, though, was that oftentimes when these passport bros talk about femininity, is actually a code word for submission, right? And when we talk about values, once again, is code for submission. You guys made an excellent point of breaking down family values, starting a family and so forth. But a lot of times in these echo chambers, it seems to be just about submission and American women not submitting, while you guys identified the value thing. So here's my question. So to me, and I could be wrong, since a lot of the conversation seems to center on submission versus what you guys identify as value, this is my question, then are the men actually just seeking control versus partnership? And the reason why I wanted to ask this was because a lot of times when American, i.e. Americanized women or whatnot, or us in America, we have a tendency to want partnerships. So I'm asking, is this really just a way to seek control versus true partnership?
Partnership is beautiful.
Quickly.
Partnership is beautiful. So of course everybody wants partnership. As far as control and submission, you can't have a stable, healthy family dynamic if you don't have a clear hierarchy, some sort of chain of command, some sort of order. In a relationship, one of these, if two people are together, one of them has to have 51% at least. The other one's got to have 49. If they both got 50-50, then whenever they disagree, they're at a deadlock. And there's sometimes you can't afford that. A move has to be made. So I think that one of the things that passport bros are reaching for when they go overseas is they're reaching for people who come from cultures where it's already been established that the man is going to make that decision. And that level of submission or whatever is already built in and layered in. And maybe that's the value that they're looking for when they go overseas. That answers your question. Control, but not control to dominate, but control to protect, to regulate, right? To move, motivate, to build. Go ahead, y'all.
I'm still trying to wrap my mind around, because I don't know if we said submission one time in this conversation.
I started off by stating in the actual echo chamber, it's always been about submission. I also point out that you guys talked about values. That's why I wanted to ask that question, because while we talk about values, family values, a lot of times when the passport bros talk, they're actually talking about submission.
I don't necessarily know if I buy that. You said a lot of times when they talk, they're talking about submission. I don't. I think they might be talking about family values, right? But here's the other thing too, right? I think the submission thing is overplayed too, man. People submit in various forms to various things. Like, you want somebody who's going to agree and submit to you 100% of the time. Okay, cool. Go find that person who's not going to have an opinion at all. Okay, whatever. I don't think that's realistic for real, for real. Like, I think that if we're really talking about cooperation, I think that's a better word that men are trying to say, but maybe some men are trying to communicate, and it sounds like what you're hearing is submission. Yeah, at least I think that's what I hear, because honestly, I don't even want to get too far down this rabbit hole because we're already late on the show. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if anybody else wants to answer that question. I'll just shut up. In regards to whether or not men are secretly seeking control, which is what these passport bros are looking for when they are looking for partners. Is that the question essentially?
Basically, I think it's tied into sometimes it can be tied into their identification or identity of masculinity.
I mean, I'll say this much though, right? I think the problem is sometimes women want men to show up a certain type of way, and I think men aren't allowed to have expectations for women to show up a certain type of way. And that's where the crux of the conversation is. Even if there are women who are willing to be submissive, it's almost like, you got to meet up to do this to really get this. So, well, I got to do that. Shouldn't you naturally be this way? It just becomes like this windmilling cycle where people aren't being real. But the truth is, they're all full of shit. But that's all I got on that, though. I think a lot of these people should be talking full of shit. Anything else, Devin, on this?
Yeah, no, I think part of that disconnect is the value add, the value proposition. I'm getting more value. Assume I'm looking for a wife. Assume that's where we're starting. Over there, I'm getting more value for what I'm. If I'm going to spend it over here, either way, I'm getting more value over there. And versus shaming the guys and finger wagging at them, I've yet to see women say, you know what? Let's look. Maybe they have a point. The thought that the passport bros have a point never enters the women's heads. They're by definition they're bad, or they're pers, or they're disingenuous. So I think that's problematic. Women starting from that proposition that it's not a good faith conversation being had.
That's because they don't really care about those guys. And
That's
I'm not mad at them because they're not attracted to the guys typically that would probably
I
be
was just
seen
gonna
as a
say that.
passport, bro.
Right.
And so, aside from the fact there's already a question about whether or not women care about the men they're actually with, we certainly know when it comes to the men that they're not attracted to or don't have any care for, they can give two fucks, which is why this conversation is fascinating to me whenever they get upset about it, because you wouldn't fuck him anyway. Their attitude, like S&M, should be, hey, good riddance.
That actually is the attitude. The attitude is good riddance. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
But you're talking as a married ass woman.
I'm saying this is the attitude. I'm also, just like you have 3 men on the panel representing the various men perspectives, I'm trying to represent a variety of women perspectives. So.
Okay, well, listen, as long as you accept the accountability of representing all women, that's cool. I didn't want to put that on you. It's okay if you don't want to represent every woman. If all women are not in you in this moment, pause if necessary. Anything you want done, baby, I can do it naturally. Whoa. Anyways, final thoughts, man. You can tell we get delirious. We just start swinging when you used it towards the end of the show. All right, so who want to go first? Final thoughts before we get up out of here.
I'll do it. So I enjoyed the episode. We missed Tia, of course, but it's great to be back. Great to be talking to you guys. In case anybody missed what my takes was on any of this, I'll just run down for you real quick. Older women do have a sexual advantage because they're older. They know their bodies probably better than the men know their bodies because they're dealing with younger men. So there is a bit of an advantage. But I have been with older women who were 18, 20 years older than me. And honestly, those particular women, no, weren't skilled. I could have had a V8. Was Shaq out of pocket or on point? Yeah, I think Shaq was saying what he had to say for the moment. Whether he was saying it because he really cares about her and wants to protect her character, or whether he was saying about her because he wants to protect her evenings and her plans horizontally. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. The Manosphere is helpful because it takes a village to raise a child, people. You know what I mean? Get some information from somewhere. We got to talk. How else are we going to bounce these ideas and figure out what really works for all of us if we're not talking? So I think the hate on the Manosphere is just somebody hating because people weren't listening to them and they were listening to somebody else. That's all there was. It's emotionally expressive men. Y'all okay, man. Y'all express yourselves. You'll find that women who can't handle you expressing yourself emotionally, it's generally and usually, my personal opinion, y'all can tell me if y'all think I'm right or not, because these are women who have weaponized emotions. And so when you begin, if you look at all like you're moving the way they've been moving, where you're using those emotions to shield them, block them, or even maybe turn around and do your own, hit your own points, yeah, they're gonna have a problem with it. Then they're gonna call you all sorts of names. But you're basically just expressing your own emotion like they've been expressing theirs. So if your emotion's too much for them, it's probably because they don't want you using the tool the way they've been using it. Finally, American women being misjudged. No, American women, take a chill pill, okay? Right there, Delvin's right. The money does. You can go overseas. I can do 10 dates and spend what I would spend on 2 dates in America. I mean, the courtship just don't even add up. The process is different. Lower your expectations because it's a wide market. It's a global market, and believe it or not, you are competing.
Well, you know what? I enjoyed the show as always. Of course, we miss Tia. So hopefully you didn't have too much fun, and we'll be back next week. We'll be made whole. We'll be the Fantastic Five once again. You know what? As I've gone through life, I realize, you know what? There are no more MILFs. There are no more aunties. They're just women my age. But you know what? I appreciate them for giving me the guidance and tutelage when I was a young man. So I'm going to always have a special place from my heart for the older women when I was a younger man. And shout out to Amber Rose for, telling the younger women, hey, man, get that man a warm towel and some French toast. He might say this is it. And I'm going to wife her up and put a ring on it. So special place, special shout out from the expert to the older ladies. You know what? Whether it's older women, passport bros, find your tribe. There's a niche for everybody. Find the people who rock with you, who are on the same page you're on, and just go over there. And that's okay. As Nick said earlier in the show, you know what? Everything, every person, every message, it isn't directed at you. So find what works for you, grab it, and go and live your best life.
So first, I'd just like to start off to say, women, I would never tell you to lower your expectations simply because we got the Manosphere telling you the men in the Manosphere, they can be a 4 or a 3 and get them an IG baddie. So we're going to be delusional. Let's all be delusional together because at the end of the day, but I will note though, at the end of the day, whether you're in a relationship or it's your culture or the rules that they're trying to slide past us, you as women and men still have to decide what you're willing to tolerate, what you're willing to entertain, what you're willing to allow. Accountability ain't for just your ex or your next, it's also for you. You have to take accountability for your choices and your actions. And that includes who you're listening to and who you're not listening to. You don't have to listen to us. You know what I'm saying? And you don't even have to listen to the voice in your head sometimes. I'm just kidding. I have multiple voices in my head, so that's probably why I said that. But anyways, with that being said, protect your peace, read between the lines, because remember, grown folks don't chase chaos. They clock it, call it out, and keep it moving. And I hope that we actually did that here at the BLC Pod, where we were able to clock it, call it out, even if it meant calling me out or calling anybody on the panel out. And I appreciate that. So let's learn and grow together and keep it pushing.
I'm so glad you landed there, S&M, with that, because, one of the things when we talk about emotional ears, by the way, go cop the shirt right now. We got 4 different designs. They're fire. And we also got mugs and tumblers as well. Definitely check out the BLC store and the merch. But one of the things that, I realize in these conversations, not necessarily just about with us, but just in general, like if you speak about a particular group, a person who may be a part of that group is going to be inclined to be defensive about it, right? And then you have to have the time and the conversation to work through it because it's a natural reaction. You're talking about me. I didn't go through that. We get it, right? And so a lot of times when we have these conversations, even though we're trying to have them in general, then we kind of make them specific in order to either emote or be defensive or to make a point. And for me, I just try to have it as much as possible in general. I think there's a danger when podcasts or podcasters try to make it so specific because it does then hit and then hit the dogs will holler, right? To a certain extent. And as they should, because they feel attacked. And they probably are being attacked. If you say, oh, you're less than a man because you didn't do this, sometimes we don't hear it a certain way, but we hear it. You dig what I'm saying? And I think people react emotionally because of what they've heard or are not able to hear in the first place. So I'm just saying, like, I think honestly, because not all podcasts or all podcasters are the same. Some of us are better able to emotionally regulate and to have these conversations. So shout out to all of us for even being able to have these conversations. I don't think there's a problem with having emotions. I think a lot of it comes down to how you deal with your emotions. That would be maybe if there's one message that I can leave with people, right? Because I think there's a confusion in regards to whether or not men are allowed to emote or what does that look like. Yes, you're allowed to feel a thing. That's how I identify an emotion. Like I feel something, but just because I feel something doesn't mean I have to do something. I think if most of us could just take a beat sometimes, like, yeah, I feel this way, but why do I feel this way? I think if most of us did more of that, we would find that what we think we're feeling or the reasons that we're feeling it may not be actual or factual, right? And I think for me, as a person who constantly does this, constantly look inward and realize, why am I feeling this way? I'm looking for the reason and the why, so therefore I can figure out if it's something I should stand on or something I should kind of move back from or just change. And it really doesn't have to be that hard at the end of the day, right? So I get it. You know, some people process their emotions a little bit differently, and some people are not allowed to have them. But I'm here to tell you, there's nothing wrong with having emotions. But there is something wrong when you act out of them and injure yourself and or others or relationships or the thing that you said that you want in life. So whether you're a man or a woman, regulate yourself, because to me, that's the beginning of emotional intelligence, not the end of it. With that being said, on behalf of myself, TMB, who's not here, but S&M, Just Jay, Del V, I said S&M, right? And me, we'll see y'all next week, y'all. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and all that good stuff. And I already mentioned the merch. So go out there and get that, take that, take that. I look forward to seeing y'all next week and dressing up as Diddy for Halloween. Until next week, we'll see y'all next time. Peace. Pew, 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 pew.